Hello and welcome. We are back with Tim's latest release. Tim Holtz, of course, but you knew that. It's the multi-level embossing folders. We're going to tell you all about multi-level and how to get the best out of these fabulous embossing folders. So let's get cracking. So first up, we are going to be looking at Vault diamonds. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Vault series, Vault means that these are existing designs which Tim has come out with before, except there are notable changes. Some of them have been brought back because they're super popular and you can't get them anymore. Some of them are chosen by Tim's making team and Tim himself, and ultimately by you because they've proved so popular in the past. Now, this diamond one is one of the most usable patterns. It's a lovely neutral background pattern, but it's quite stunning. And it's a multi-level. And we're going to talk about multi-levels in a second. But here is what it looks like. I've done it in opulent cardstock. This is Sizzix opulence. And you can see the depth. You can see what a beautiful design that is. So there's dimension, but it's an incredible pattern. And then this is one that I did just using distressing. So I distressed the background, then went over the top with a brown, and that kind of pulls it all together. But before I go any further, let's talk about multi-levels and how they differ from other embossing folders. So this describes a cross-section through a 2D embossing folder. These were the ones that we used to have years ago. They were clear plastic, and they just go up and along and down and up like that. So there would be two levels. Okay, now 3D embossing folders, they changed everything really, but so you could have peaks, you could have troughs and valleys, you could have details, so they would be rounded, they would be square, they would pretty much, they were an absolute game changer. And some of Tim's 3Ds are, in my humble opinion, the best of the technology that we have ever seen by any manufacturer. Now, a multi-level is a kind of a cross between the two. Because it can work on both levels, but it goes up and then up again. So it's kind of like a New York skyline. And multi-level embossing, they're the same thickness as a 3D, but because of the way they work, there are some incredible techniques that you can use with them, which we'll talk about in a little more detail. So let's take that away. And that was Vault Diamonds. Next up, we have Vault Lace. This was such a popular embossing folder back in the day. I'm sure you can see why. All that wonderful detail, nothing sort of replicated there. And this is the same thing, used as a background, but we've used distress inks to kind of bring that to life. Then this was one of the most popular ones in the office, actually. This is Vault Flourish. And again, another classic of Tim's. It was previously a 3D. I may have seen this as a 2D, but look at that. Now, if you look at that pattern, you look at that blue in the background, this is something that you can only achieve with multi-level embossing folders. And I will explain why shortly. But that's it in glorious opulent cardstock. So imagine it in some of the metallics that you have at home. So that is Flourish. Then this one, right? This is called Airmail. This embossing folder formerly was a 2D, and it was such a popular folder. And I'm going back, way over 10 years. I'm not entirely sure, but that's it. Look at that. Look at that. That's in the opulent cardstock. It's incredible, isn't it? And then we've used the properties, those multi-level properties, to create this beautiful background. Notice how the background is light blue, the foreground is a deeper blue, but in the middle you've got the cream of the card coming through. And that's the technique that we use with these by using a brayer and by inking the folder. And there will be a video, I think, coming up which will show you how to get this technique. So you want to keep your eyes peeled for that one. So let's take that out of the way, because this is the kind of thing we do. Look at that with the swirls. right? How about that? Creating these backgrounds. So by inking one side of the folder and then running it through, you're getting this effect. So the folder is acting almost like a printing plate. So whether you want it pastel, whether you want to get these lovely blues so it looks like plasterwork, maybe you want to bring some distressing to it afterwards to get it looking all vintage. That is entirely up to you. How about, now this is a great illustration of what I was talking about. To get the red, once I'd embossed this, I simply go over it with a brayer. So the brayer just takes the peaks. So when we looked at how these folders were made, it just rolls over the peaks and leaves everything else. And you get that wonderful effect. So that's a kind of a really bonkers color combination. You can make it as subtle or as bonkers as you wish. Now, one more to look at, and that is Vault Gears. Again, a hugely popular 2D embossing folder from way back when. But this is now a multi-level, and multi-level, as we know, gives us some unique properties when it comes to the techniques that you can use with these folders. But there we are, that's it using distress inks, just picking out the peaks and troughs, getting that depth, getting that contrast. It really is a wonderful, wonderful folder. And let's bring in some other examples. I think, if memory serves, these were all done using a combination of distress oxides and acrylic applied with my brayer. So whether you wanted something really super simple like that, or something where we pick out that blue using the acrylics, and you can even see some gilding wax over the top to get a suggestion of a metallic base. Really, really cool. So those are the 5. But what I'm going to do next, I'm going to show you some examples that were made not just with these embossing folders, but with the earlier release from Tim's, that's Tim's Vault die sets. And they're made by some of Tim's makers. And I'm going to start with this one. This was made, okay, by, and I know if I struggle to find the names, then forgive me. This was Louise Heinzel. Also forgive me if my pronunciation's a little bit off whack. But you can see the dies that Louise has used for this, but that background, that's the diamond, but it's done so subtly. There's our swirls. So you see, with some of these, I can't even describe the techniques that Louise has used to get the best out of that. I'm sure Tim will be able to do to describe it in chapter and verse. But we've also got, look at the edges on these wonderful distressed pages. That is using the Vault Edges set to get that, and elements from the Noteworthy set as well. That is quite a glorious little journal. There's fabrics going on, there's stitching, there's die cutting, there's embossing. Wow, that is extraordinary. Thank you, Louise, for sending that across. Then the next one is made by Vicky, and again we're talking about those edges. We've got the Noteworthy set, we've got the Industrialist set. There's look at the depth in that, and just gorgeous, gorgeous techniques, and some sort of glaze over the top. Again, I am not qualified to tell you what techniques have been used in the making of this card, but you know, if you go to Vicky's Instagram, if you check out Tim Holtz Makers on his website, you will be able to find, I'm sure, a full description of what's going on there. Next up, Rochelle. Now, this is, now the only embossing folder here is the little 2D one. This set of lovely flowers, this was from one of Tim's die sets, and it is a side order set. So you get this lovely side order embossing folder as well. The alphabet is from the Edges set, the Vault Edges, and these little florals are the Modern Floristry, the Vault Modern Floristry. But I love the way she's layered this up with the gold to get that contrast against those beautiful colors. Now, another couple of cards from Vicky, but this one, we've got the Retroatomic. We have this wonderful play. This is from the Industrial, and you can see the rivets again from the Industrial as well. But the background, remember that one? The diamond one? How well does that work alongside these die cuts? How well does that work as a really sort of retro worn background. It's one that you'll see coming up time and time again. And I'm going to bring one more in from Vicky, because she's really got this industrial look down to a T. Now you look at the background. So the background, she's used the gears folder. She's also used the vault edges to create that deckled edge. And she's used that wonderful pipe work, which is just a very small part of Tim's vault industrial set. So we'll put those to one side. And this one is by Stacy. Now, some of the flowers from Modern Floristry. We've got these elements which come from the Noteworthy set, but in the background is that lovely diamonds. But I just want you to look, get some contrast, see the difference between those two. As I said in the introduction, it really is one of those folders that you can use in so many ways, in so many styles, and it's always going to deliver the goods. It really is. Now, Juliana Michaels. Oh, there we are. Now, Juliana is really making the best of multi-level technology with some of those techniques that I was talking about. We got the pipe work coming in. This is one of Tim's older ones. I think that goes back about 3 years. You may have it in your stash. If not, have a look for it. And I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but the word gentleman comes in there somewhere. But again, the alphabet comes from the Edges set. The pipework comes from the industrial set and that wonderful, wonderful gears embossing folder in the background. So let's have a look. Now, it's hard to believe that this is the same maker. These people are so talented and so skilled. The versatility is off the charts. Now, this scribbly butterfly, which isn't a vault die, but the elements that Juliana has used here, these are little florals from the vault. What's the name? Oh, vault. It's the one with the flowers in it. It'll come back to me in a second. So many names going through my head. But this background, look at the colors. Look at the colors in there. I mean, she's got this rust going on. She's got that lovely blue. There's greens coming through. There are sort of pearlized elements. It's absolutely extraordinary. It's Modern Floristry. That's it, from the Modern Floristry set. But just the richness, it's beautiful, but it's kind of industrial at the same time. Gorgeous, gorgeous card. Now, this is by Kulbir, and here it is again. Didn't I tell you that diamond one? It's coming up once again. I have no idea what technique she used to bring the beauty out of that folder, but they're quite incredible, aren't they? So this is the Retro Atomic die cut shapes in conjunction with that folder. An absolute work of genius and such brave use of color. It really, really is. This one doesn't have any embossing, but it does have stenciling. And I assume that it's Louise Hansel, I assume she's cut her own stencil to put this paste through. But there's one of the paper cut checks from an earlier collection. Stitching going on, the richness of that sort of mustard color underneath. And of course, the alphabet from the Edges die. That is so incredibly cool. It really is. Now, next up again is Louise Hansel. There it is again. Now, I bet when you looked at these, this diamond one, it is the least sort of in-your-face design. It's very straightforward. It's just a background pattern. But I did tell you that it was so usable, didn't I? So we've got those lovely decal edges from the Vault Edges die set. We've got these florals, which come from the Modern Florals set. And of course, the alphabet, again from the Edges. But, it is this folder that really makes it, or brings it to life, I should say. And then this is another one by Vicky. Oh, she's got that lovely bulb in there. She's got the, she's got this. Oh, look at those numbers. Look at those numbers cut into that gorgeous clipboard. That is from the Noteworthy set. We can see the Edges set coming in there and the Noted. And I said, this Edges set, this is something that is going to be used time and time again. It's one of the most versatile die sets. And Tim is known for the versatility of his work. This one is by Jen, Creative Chick. I could not disagree with that. These colors. that pink, that purple, those greens, those blues. Again, the modern floristry coming in. Noteworthy. It is just extraordinary, but using those numbers just to give a little bit of contrast. So there's no embossing there. Sometimes you can use die cuts to create that contrast in the backgrounds. This is modern floristry and noteworthy. Again, this is by Jen. Wow, it's just a riot of color and technique going on. See possibility everywhere. Well, you've certainly brought that to the fore here. That is a gorgeous, gorgeous card. And then here's another one. This again is by Colbier, and that embossing folder, which comes with a modern floristry set as well. Really cool, lovely texture. And again, the brave use of color and the punchiness of those colors is quite extraordinary. Now this I like, but look, this is one by Rochelle, and it's our old friend. The diamonds in the background, that embossing folder again. The stars come from the Retro Atomic set, which was released earlier in the month. But these letters, check out the depth in that. It's been cut from foam because, of course, when you put a die through the machine with foam, it compresses and cuts it. So that's one of the thicker materials you can cut. But by the looks of things, there are 2 layers. And that has real killer depth. Now, imagine you cut this foam and you flip the letters. You can use it to create stamps as well. It's a great way of making word stamps to use with your kids, which I have done in the past. But again, this is Rochelle again. That folder, I would love to know how she's got that effect. I really would. I might have to send her an email myself. We've got the noteworthy. We've got the alphabet from the edges and that gorgeous, gorgeous embossing folder underneath, which we looked at earlier. That is a super duper technique. I wish I knew how she'd done it. I'm sure I'll find out. And then finally, well, what can I say about this? I mean, I don't need to tell you who the original artist was who inspired this. It was, of course, Vincent van Gogh, but this is by Anita, and wow, this is right up my street. I wish I'd have thought of doing this. I didn't. It's incredible. I love it. It's so much fun going on there, so much technique, lovely glazes. I don't know what she used to apply the color. I don't need to know. I just need to marvel at its beauty. That is really something else. Thank you so much for sending in all these gorgeous makes. Ooh, wow, I got to take a breath after that. I do hope you enjoyed that little overview. Thank you so much to Tim Holtz, some of the makers, for sending in those wonderful projects, which are not just inspirational, they're also aspirational, because I want to know how to get some of those techniques, and I will be finding out, you can guarantee that. But if you want to find out more, as I always say, about these folders and the inspiration behind them, then go to timholtz.com, where he will go into far more depth than I ever could. So thank you very much for joining me. I've been P, and I'll see you again soon.